Okay, all right, so we are recording. It's this one, right? Incognito one. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how.
You already told me something, thank you.
Okay. And then you want this to be smaller.
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Wow. That would be great. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Just yell. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm ready to get started if you all are. I'm Kaija Hoyt. I was a SUNY Oswego student. I just graduated, so I'm not anymore. But no, don't laugh. Yeah, so I was human resource management major with a math minor, and I'm just going to talk a little about how I use AI, specifically ChatGPT, in my learning life and throughout college. I used it for classes and student organizations. Little backstory, I actually hated AI when I first came here. The first 3 years of college, I was like, I'm not using AI for anything. Everything's going to be 100% me. And that was kind of my approach to everything. Then I had a professor who was like, you really should use AI, use AI, use AI, use AI, and still ignored it. It was like, no, I got this. But later, when we started working on my honors thesis, I was working with him and he just kept being like, come on, you can use AI for this, it'll make it easier. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll use it. And then I realized, you know what, it is actually really helpful and I probably should use it in some ways because it makes life easier and then you don't have to do things that you really don't need to be doing. So when I first started it, I was using it for my honors thesis to help me with kind of filling in the gaps with words that maybe I couldn't come up with what the word was, or I couldn't figure out how to combine the sentences because my brain was just blanking and I was like, I cannot figure this out. So it helped me a lot with that. But then I kind of grew into using it more for other things, specifically math stuff. So in the spring semester, I was taking Introduction to Algebra, and I was kind of struggling because I wasn't practicing it because he didn't give us a lot of assigned homework problems. So I was like, oh, I don't need to do a lot of practice. There also wasn't a lot of practice problems to do. So I was just kind of winging it. And then I was like, okay, this isn't going so well. Maybe I should start studying. But I didn't know how to study for it. I never really studied for math before. So I was like, what do I do? And then I'd heard from someone, I cannot remember who, but somebody was using it to have it come up with practice problems. And I was like, oh, this is a good idea. I should try it. So basically I would just tell it this is the topic that I'm going over, the course, and give me some practice problems. And I didn't trust that it was going to actually give me helpful problems. I was like, it's not going to know what I'm learning, but it actually did. And the more I came up with better prompts, the more it gave me better practice problems. So this is one of the examples when I first started using it, when I was trying to show that things were group homomorphisms. And then it would just give me more examples, things like that. This was literally life-saving for that class because otherwise, I didn't want to bother the professor. I hate bothering professors. So I was like, I don't want to ask him to give me a bunch of practice problems. And I didn't want to go through the textbook because sometimes textbooks are it's a lot to find what you're looking for and what you wanted to use. So I usually just did this, and this was really helpful. That literally my grades turned around so fast after I started practicing by using this to help me. So that's an example for algebra. There's also this for when I was practicing for the final exam. This one I actually had it check my answers. So I'd be it would ask me something and then I would give it the answer and then it would say, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong, and then kind of walk me through it in case there were any spots I got stuck, or so I could really check all of my work. There were a couple times when it was wrong and I knew that it was wrong. And I said, no, actually my answer's right and your answer's wrong. And then, we worked that out. But let me see if I can find that one because it was really funny because I was like, no, I did that right. Because I think it was this one. Yeah. So it told me what it was, the answer that I got, and then somehow made this one up. I don't know what it was doing. So you have to pay attention when you're using it because it just jumps around sometimes. But for the most part, it was really helpful. I only ever had an issue with it once. And then the other thing that I use it for academically is papers. So when I write like a giant paper like this one, I don't want to read through the whole thing for the 50th time to figure out what I'm not doing well. So I just asked it like, read this, tell me what's good, tell me what's not. And so it'll give me like a list of the strengths, the things that I know are good. Sometimes I'll ask it like, can you tell me which paragraph's like the weakest paragraph? Because sometimes I know one of those paragraphs is just bad. Or does the flow make sense? Because sometimes it doesn't and I don't know how to fix it, but it can give me like little hints on maybe if you did this, this would help. So it gave me some positive feedback and then gave me some more negative feedback and would give me like examples, like this is a sentence that could be improved. And then usually what happens is I look at this, I see what some of the issues are, and then I read back through my entire paper and I'm like, okay, now I know what I'm looking for. Now I know what I was doing weird and I can fix it. So that's like the main way that I use it in writing. I try not to like copy and paste what it gives me because why would I do that? Also, sometimes its sentences are just weird and I don't like them. So sometimes it will give me, I don't know if it did it here, but it will sometimes, even though I tell it not to, it will just rewrite the whole thing for me. And I'm like, I didn't want you to do that. But when it does that, usually what I do is if it's something small, I'll just read through what it gave me and see what changes I like, what changes I don't, and then kind of modify my paragraph off of that without like literally taking the output and just pasting it in. But like, because it has some things that are just why you don't need to change that. Like it loves to use the dashes instead of literally any other form of punctuation, but it's like the other forms are fine. Or it always changes in addition to additionally, which drives me insane because I'm like, it's the same thing, just leave it. So little things like that bother me about it, but it's really helpful for like pointing out some things that you can do better. And then what I've seen from it, like when I was using it for my honors thesis, when I would give it like little paragraphs, little chunks, and then whatever problems it was finding in those, it stopped finding them in others because I was like growing in my writing, being like, oh, I should stop doing that and fixing it for the future. It was also with this paper, it was really helpful because I kind of just word vomited it originally because I was doing research and I was just like plugging it in. And then I didn't really want to read through the whole thing right away because I was like, I need a break. So I plugged it in here. It told me like, these are the things you need to fix. And then I went back through and reread it that way. So it wasn't like, sometimes I feel like when you're just rereading it and you don't know what you're looking for or what errors you need to be fixing, it's really hard to find all of them, especially when it's like a longer paper or on something that you're not interested in, then it's like twice as hard. So that's like the academic stuff. And then I also use it in my clubs. I should do this one first. So for math club, for example, I was really struggling to come up with ideas that students would like because our membership's really bad and people don't come to our meetings. So I don't know if I actually used any of these. I don't think I did. But basically, like some of them I did, but I was already doing it. Like math game night, we were already doing that. Pi day, we already did that. But I asked it for some ideas, and then from these ideas, I came up with more of my own. So it was like a jumping off point to like kind of start the brainstorming. And then from there, I was able to like think more deeply about ideas because I was really just stuck. So I did this, and then from this, even though you'll notice nowhere in there does it say math competition with students versus professors, but somehow from that, I got to there, which was actually the event I was most excited about that we did. But then when doing it, I reached out to math professors, and obviously there are a lot of them, and I haven't taken every math class here. So there was some classes that it's like, I have no idea. Like they told me what their topics were, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what a good question would be. So when I was making it, I asked it for questions on each of the topics and then had it like check the answers. Like I would try to solve them, check with it. Sometimes I also check with other things like Symbol Lab calculator for derivatives and stuff like that to make sure that the answers were right. And I had another math student look it over, but I don't think it gave me any wrong answers this time. So that was pretty great. Let me see. So yeah, so I asked it like, I would know like, oh, I want to use arcsign, but I don't want to come up with a question myself. So I asked it, give me one with arcsign, and then it did. And this was really helpful for making the entire thing that I made for the math competition that we did. And then making an answer sheet too. So I didn't have to solve every single math problem, come up with every single math problem and then solve every single math problem just to run a competition. But most of them I did walk through them to make sure that they were like reasonable for students, but it did a really good job of giving me stuff that fit what I was looking for. So that's all of the like just word vomiting at you that I'm gonna do. But if people have questions, I can answer them. If you want to know more about one of the things I talked about, or if you just have questions about the students using AI, you can ask. Yeah.
You said you didn't want to ask questions of the professor because you didn't want to bother the professor.
Yes.
Why don't you want to bother us?
You know, that's like a personal issue for sure. That I think most students do have. Some of us are afraid to talk to the professor, or some professors that I've had just like don't respond to email ever. So usually after I've had one of those, then I just kind of give up and I'm like, nope, not gonna waste my time. But I also feel like I'm a very independent learner, so I don't like to rely on other people, which is part of why I didn't want to use AI in the first place. Like I will literally spend hours on math homework rather than ask someone for help because I want to figure it out on my own. So that's part of it too, is just like a yeah, which is dumb. I know I should ask for help, but it's hard sometimes. So this is a good tool.
Yeah, I just want to know, where does this idea that professors don't want to be bothered by their students comes from? Because, you know, I don't know about other professors here, but I love it when my students
Yeah.
bother me. Gives me something to do. It gives me
Yeah.
a sense that they're doing something. They, you know, are trying, that they're reaching out for help. So.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of professors out there that you'll have that just like they really don't want to help you, or they just seem like they don't, and then we tend to just kind of decide, okay, we're done. Because I mean, that happened to me freshman year where I had professors that just didn't want to talk to students, and so that kind of just set the tone for my college experience, I think. Yeah, it's unfortunate though. Yes.
I would like to know who won the students versus professors competition.
So it was very unfortunate. I made it set up so that students would win if there were enough of us, and there weren't. So professors won by a lot. It was really sad. But I mean, the students did good. Like they got pretty much everything right that they knew, but they just obviously didn't have as much information. Yeah. It was fun though. I think they liked it. Yes.
So I'm still kind of learning about, AI, when to use it and when not.
Yeah.
And so you said your professor who was working with you on your thesis encouraged you to use
Yes.
it, right? So you put your whole paper into ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you had a professor that did it like, I'm just wondering if you put a paper in there, for another class and had to talk to the professor about like whether you were gonna use ChatGPT or any other AI tool. You obviously like used it not to write a paper for you, but I'm wondering, could that cause a problem? Like if just a random student was taking their whole paper and putting it into the tool, and then the professor was like using an AI checker when they were grading, could your paper then show up,
Yeah.
in the system, and they might think you were plagiarizing when you really.
Yeah, I'm scared of that, honestly. So I do not use AI when if a professor has like in their syllabus, like don't use it at all, then I don't use it, because I don't know what's gonna happen, and I don't trust it to not decide that my words are its and like things like that. So I usually follow what the professor says. So like the paper that I showed, it was for the class with that professor who was like, I want you to use AI. So I was like, okay. But yeah, so you'll see like everything up here is stuff that either didn't directly impact like homework or assignments, or was for a class with the professor was like, you should use it. Yeah. So I would recommend like listen to your professor for students, but professors also like, I think it would be helpful to, if you encourage the positive use of AI, because realistically, like most students are not like me, they're gonna use it no matter what. But if you give them guidelines for like, this is how you should use it, or these is good ways to use it, I think that would be really helpful.
So this is where the difference between the paid and the free version of ChatGPT matter. Unfortunately, because the paid version allows you to say, don't use whatever I'm putting in, don't release that to the masses.
Yeah.
Whereas for the free version, you're stuck with that being part of the pool of universal knowledge after that.
It's also really annoying when you're like on the, because you get like a certain amount of premium and then it switches and you can tell in the outputs that it gives you. That is a bit of a nuisance when you're trying to practice problems and things like that.
Thank you, Kaija.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay.
I just now noticed, is there so there's an AI note taker for these talks in here?
On Zoom?
Yeah, I saw like a
Mhm.
Bubbles AI note taker.
Yep. The AI companion.
And that's free?
That's it built, yeah, it's integrated into all Zoom calls now.
Is that something that we turn on ourselves or is that like always on?
You have to opt out of it now. You used to have to turn it on, but now it turns on all by itself.
Should I
It's
make
easy to
that
go
like?
and do it.
Yeah, you can do that wherever you want.
You know, if you want it on all the time.
Yeah.
or if you
Not
want
that
it
there's
off.
not much on this slide.
And I can make that, you want me to make this go away? No.
AI.
Doesn't matter. I don't know if it'll cover anything off the
You
top.
might have to use the mouse to click. Yeah,
I think it should be fine.
oops. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, cool. All right, so we have three presentations total in the 50 minutes, so here's the next one.
Hi, everyone. My name's Abbey Kilpatrick. I'm entering my senior year here at SUNY Oswego, and I'm a double major in English and adolescent education. So my presentation is coming more from the writing and the educator perspective. Obviously, not a math person like Kaija, so not coming from that. But my talk is about generative AI use in academia and how it's shifting college level writing, specifically with plagiarism. So a little bit of background, I'm sure most of you probably know this, but ChatGPT was publicly released in November of 2022, and it is a form of generative artificial intelligence, or GAI. And it was initially created to be a chatbot, which basically means it was created to mimic human conversation. But unlike other chatbots, ChatGPT can remember what a user previously inputted, meaning that it is capable of creating written answers that sound really similar to if a human had said it. And definitely now, as we kind of talked about, it takes what users input into it and it puts that into its pool of things. So it has over time, since its release, become more and more human sounding than it used to be. I keep doing that. But by the end of January 2023, which was only about 2 months after it was publicly released, it had surpassed 100 million users. And as of February of this year, it had over 400 million weekly active users. So it has really grown at a pretty fast rate. And it has been trained through being fed data from the internet, including books, websites, online encyclopedias, social media sites, and also what users input. So this also means that ChatGPT has created biases due to what it's fed. And there have been some copyright concerns. In 2023, 17 authors, including George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, sued OpenAI for copyright infringement because it was taking their work and regurgitating it as if it was its own without like citing it. So obviously there's a lot of like mixed reviews about ChatGPT and AI programs. My view has shifted on it. I used to kind of be like completely against it. I never wanted to use it. But now I see how it is becoming like a useful tool for people. So SUNY Oswego, as well as a ton of other universities around the world, are working to become AI-enabled campuses, meaning that they want to integrate AI in a sustainable way, since they are growing so fast and there's so many. ChatGPT was just the first. There are so many generative AI programs now that have kind of copied it that do the same thing that it does. So there are many, many different ways people can use it. So it isn't sustainable to ban it or just completely dismiss it, because students are going to use it anyways. But because of this, professors have very different policies surrounding AI. So in my experience, I've had professors on both ends of the spectrum. I've had professors who encourage the use of AI and want you to use it and for brainstorming, coming up with titles, using it to create practice problems, using it to create rubrics and lesson plans, stuff like that. But then on the other end, there are professors who don't want students to use it at all. It means you could fail the course, fail the paper, stuff like that. There can be serious consequences. But work generated by artificial intelligence does violate SUNY Oswego's academic integrity policy under plagiarism if you don't cite it, because it counts as taking someone else's work as your own. But there are growing concerns surrounding students turning in work generated by AI programs. And this is because users are able to stick an essay or assignment prompt directly into ChatGPT and ask it to generate a response. And then they'll read it over and since ChatGPT remembers the question that you asked it and remembers the response it gave you, you can go back and ask it to change it, change this part of it, change this part of it, and you can even like input a sample of your own writing and ask it to mimic what your writing style into it. And a lot of this comes from students like being more concerned about the grade that they're getting over actually learning how to improve their skills. And it also kind of like raises the question, is it just for the grade, or is there laziness involved too? Like, do students just not want to do the work? But more concerns come from the fact that there isn't really a very reliable tool that can be used to identify generative AI work. It's still very much new in that sense. Like plagiarism checkers are not accurate 100%. So it's still relatively easy for students to pass off work as being AI as their own when it's AI generated, if you don't know what to look for. And again, it's becoming more human-like, so it is getting harder for just a human to pick it out. But in college courses, there are also instances where students who use generative AI to write their assignments receive better grades than students who actually do their own work. So for example, I had an experience of this in one of my introductory writing classes. We had to do a literary analysis, and I had spent the time, edited everything, wrote it myself, and I got a 98 on it, which I was proud of. I felt it reflected my work well. Obviously it wasn't perfect, but it was, good for my level. And then we had a classmate come in bragging that they had gotten 100 on the assignment when they used ChatGPT to write the entire paper. So me and my other classmates were very disheartened by that. But with the rise of academic dishonesty surrounding generative AI use and plagiarism in general, professors need to be stricter and more thorough with their grading. Because again, plagiarism checkers are not consistently accurate. So they'll flag things as being generative AI work that may not be, or they'll completely miss things that actually are generated by AI. And these plagiarism checkers are also shown to be discriminatory against students whose primary language is not English, because they may use different grammar usages, different word usages, stuff like that, that it automatically picks up as being made by a robot when it's not. But I mean, it's understandable with the rise of students who are being dishonest with their work that they need to become harsher in grading and flag anything that is suspicious of being AI. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are students who are getting flagged for AI work when it isn't, when it is their own, because professors are beginning to grow suspicious of good writing. ChatGPT tends to do more advanced writing styles. So students who are more advanced in their writing sometimes get flagged as being AI. And these lead to false plagiarism accusations, which can be hard to fight if your writing program that you use does not have the editing history turned on, which I know Google Docs usually automatically has it turned on, but I'm not sure about Word, and there are tons of other writing programs that people use that may not have it on, so it can be a little difficult to defend your writing if your professor's like dead set on it being plagiarized. But in my closing, it's just frustrating as a student and as a future teacher to see like AI generated work getting passed off like as their own writing and sometimes even receiving better grades than someone who actually does the work. But on the other hand, I understand like why we have to be so tight in our grading of it. But one possible way that we could reduce generative AI is in the introductory writing classes, kind of being more pushing for a growth mindset and putting more pressure on teaching them how to improve their writing rather than just giving them like heavily like failing grades for poor writing abilities. But that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions?
Two things. One, the point that you make at the end, which is similar to a point that you made early, is absolutely nailing it. That I think as instructors, it would be better for us to be concentrating on the learning than on the grades. And we're shackled to a system that it's very difficult to get out of at this point, but concentrating on that, I think, is how we ultimately rise above this. The other point is I'd really love the name of that student, if you want to give it to me afterwards. I am I'm really disturbed to hear that. And since I'm the one who has to deal ultimately with that sort of stuff for the college, your name would not come into it. That student should receive a message from his associate dean at some point saying, hey, why don't you come by for a conversation? These things happen.
Yes.
You said this was for writing, like, what kind of writing in particular? Is it like English, political science, history? What did you think?
Yeah, it's usually English writing in my experience, like my English classes, that's where I see it. But I also work as a writing tutor, so I see all kinds of writing come through that is written.
Yeah, I just wonder as far as different subjects go in particular, has anyone really looked into, the whole idea of, politics and political science and how that could be weaponized by
Right.
ChatGPT?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if you're, passing off work as your own in an English course. I mean, that's already kind of not a good thing, but you're passing off work that's not your own in a political science course, and it might be something that's, politically wrong-minded or something like that. It brings a whole new level to it, right? Have you thought of exactly what might happen if ChatGPT starts poisoning the world of politics in this way?
I haven't, but it is kind of scary to think about that and what it could do.
What do you think Grammarly fits into all of it?
Grammarly is definitely an interesting thing to think about because I feel like that's where a lot of professors are okay with AI use, is using that. But then if you're like, I know from a teaching perspective, a lot of schools have it blocked for like high school and middle school. You can't use it on a school computer. So that is really interesting. And that's kind of like a gray area, I think, because.
Yeah, because actually Grammarly has a tool
Yeah.
built into it, says, oh, this looks like AI built it. So then you can reword it, so it doesn't look like it's been AI written yet, but yeah, sorry, Steph.
No, just as a follow-up to that, so Abbey and Kaija are both, well, Kaija not anymore because she graduated, but work in the writing center as writing tutors. And we have one student in particular who they have both worked with, who writes within Grammarly. Like, so there's a free version of Grammarly, and then there's the version that you can pay for, which will actively edit your writing as you are doing it. So, I don't know if either of you want to like just speak to that versus like Grammarly as just like, oh, yes, like this word needs an ing attached to it, like the more aggressive Grammarly use.
Yeah, I mean, I only use it as like the extension on Google, so it's like in my Google Doc and basically just acts like a like spell check, grammar check, and honestly, like most of the time, like I don't like what it's suggesting anyways, so I just kind of ignore it. But yeah, with the writing it in directly in Grammarly, like I think that is kind of a different way to use it because I've seen it like change things and like make suggestions like directly in there, and I feel like it makes more like advanced changes when you write it directly in there. But I don't know, Kasia, do you have anything to say? Okay,
Abby?
thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm just gonna grab Abby's microphone.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
If just one of you wears it, then it should be good to pay if you're relatively close to each other.
And also hold it right.
You can hold it, yeah, definitely.
The microphone on.
My computer just.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to present our project. I'm Sriram. I'm a graduate student, HCI major, and
Yeah, I'm Shusanket. I'm an undergrad doing double major in computer science and mathematics.
so we wanted to start with a background why we started this project. Exactly 1 year back, we did a usability testing to assess or understand how users feel about accessing information across the SUNY Oswego's platforms like Slate, banners, and websites. And we found And we found that 36% of users struggle to access information across the other class, like all the like platforms in SUNY Oswego. So we found, we were like discussing and we wanted to solve this issue. And we were like, okay, how can we solve this? We can have a unified search, like what do you call the conversational searching models that can actually search information and access the information across all the SUNY Oswego's platforms like Slate, banners, and websites. And what if we can integrate AI? So we just like wanted to leverage the technology because back then AI was kind of booming and people wanted to use AI and try. So we started off like we wanted to have this as a chatbot. So we just started off this project just to use OpenAI's integration and to create as a chatbot. And it happened to be we changed the conversational search model to agentic framework. So we developed an agentic framework, and we just wanted to introduce our framework. And yeah, so sound.
No.
That was just a introduction video. This is not a demo, but still. So this is the agentic framework we developed for almost a year. So what is actually SOI? SOI is SUNY Oswego's AI assistant. It's a conversational AI search assistant, that is powered by GPT models. So you can just integrate whatever the GPTs you want. You can just use OpenAI, Claude, or whatever you want, because we use the GPT models as a brain, but not an entire framework. So, and also we use custom embeddings, vector embeddings to get contextual, like context-aware responses. And so the knowledge base you're used is will be restricted only to SUNY Oswego, not other knowledge bases, so that you'll get the responses more refined to only SUNY Oswego's knowledge base. So the SOI has different use cases, and you can use SOI as a chatbot assistant. You can, we can actually create a chatbot and integrate with website, so that whatever the information you want to access, you can just chat with the chatbot and you will get the information. And also you can use this as an agent. So this is the agentic framework we are talking about. So if you are an administrative staff or faculty members, if you want to do an email campaign, or if you want to perform a task, you can use SOI, and you can ask SOI to perform that task, and you can automate your task throughout 24/7. And you can also use as a web search. For an example, as an international student, I might have some questions regarding visa, or I want to access leave forms or something, as I showed in the videos. So you can ask the chat agent, and you can ask the agent to scroll the web and get the information for you, including the forms and the information you need, like any informations about ISSS or something like that, or visa information. So this is a very basic framework. Like considering the time factors, I don't want to dig deep into the technical aspects of it. So the blue color boxes are the SOI agent. So basically users sends the input. So you all use ChatGPT. We send the input, and this is the ChatGPT LLM model. So you'll get the response from the LLM model. But that hallucinates a lot. That is unfiltered, and yeah, it has some irrelevant information too. So we just implemented one extra layer where it filters. So in this extra layer, this is the SOI layer framework. We implemented responsible AI. We implemented security layers. Security layers is something that CTS and other people have to come and talk about it. We don't have much knowledge about it, but responsible AI, ethical aspects, and also the vector embedding, so that it will be very accurate. So that will be transparent and very accurate responses. So initially we started with the conversational search. Initially, as I said, it was just a conversational model where you can search and retrieve information. And now we changed into agentic framework, where you can search, and also you can create your own agents. Like for an example, we were all talking about how teachers can find plagiarisms, right? You can create your own agent. And some of the students told that they were not able to reach out to the professors, because sometimes you email professors won't email you back. So professors can put their knowledge base, and professors can create the agent, and they can set it up oh, if this student or any student emails you, email back them with a very general knowledge base. If something that is apart, that is beyond the knowledge or the agentic knowledge bases, then that will have professors on loop, that's human in loop, and professors can answer it if that is really urgent or something. And so we also tested our SOI with custom GPTs, because most of the staffs and faculties, they're using custom GPTs with the knowledge bases. Custom GPTs are still making a lot of hallucinations, a lot of mistakes, but SOI didn't make that much. Of course, SOI is also having hallucinations, but not that much because of the vector embeddings. And thank you, Austin. Austin also helped us in testing with HR databases. And that's, next slide, please. So this is an example. So we asked for what number, we just asked for office number. Custom GPT couldn't answer it. It was just hallucinating, but SOI was able to answer accurately what number is it, what number of the office, office number. That's because this has SUNY Oswego's knowledge base. So the data will, the response will be very accurate and very restricted to SUNY Oswego. And now it's time for demo. So I will ask Shusanket to do the demo.
Yeah, so I'd like to add few stuff before going into demo. So when we started this project a year ago, we were just starting with few PDFs. So a few PDFs would be our database, and we would try to get a question from that PDF and try to find the answer for it, right? And over the course of time, we have realized that, okay, there are so much information in SUNY Oswego website, right? So how can we encompass all those information? So we created a program that would go into a department, let's say ISSS department, and it would get all the information that department has in the website. So it's in a tech term, it's called crawler. So we created crawler that would crawl the data of website of different departments. So as of now, we have integrated 4 departments: department, ISS, dining hall, human resources, and policies. So we're going to show some example of that. So for example, let's do an ISS one. I'm an international student, and sometimes I want to reach out to ISS to get some information, and they usually take about 2 or 3 days to reply to my email. And also looking at their website, it's really difficult to find the information. So how SOIA can help in that scenario is that you can just come to the SOIA and ask the question that you have, and it will reply you instantaneously. Let's say that I have a query. How can I apply to CPT, right? I'll send this. ISS. And yeah, it gives the information about how a student can apply to CPT. Yeah, and I think most of the university have different process to apply through CPT, and this one is very specific to SUNY Oswego. So yeah, this is one of the use case. The another use case is dining hall. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen the dining hall menu, but as a student, it's really hectic to navigate through the menu and find the information, what they are serving for meal, for lunch, dinner, or anything like that. So we also created a crawler, a program that would go into the dining hall menu, get all the data, and store it in our database. So you just have to select a department, dining hall. Even though as of now dining halls are closed, we just saved the data from the time when school was open, and we have that data. So let's say I want to see what is Cooper serving for lunch, right? And yeah.
Possible Zoom, so we can see.
Can you see now?
Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah, so it gives the information of Cooper, lunch at Cooper. This is the outdated information because right now dining halls are not open. But once the dining hall open, what we are going to do is we are going to set the program run every day so that it goes to the dining hall website, extracts the data, and save it in our database so that we'll always have updated information. The next use case is obviously HR, human resources. So human resources department has a lot of different files that they have to navigate through in daily basis. We'll just show a very simple use case. For example, give me SUNY Oswego leave form. Right. So
You want to use the agent stuff?
yeah, that's one. Yeah, so it provided me the link to the form. If I click this link, it should open the browser. Oh, it's here. So yeah, it gave me the link to the leave request form. As I said, we have created a program that would go into each of this department and grab all the data. So no matter what question you ask, if that information is in the website under that department, we'll have that information and it should answer it. And the next exciting stuff that we have is agent. I mean, all the stuff that we did is obviously agent, but this is a browser agent. So for example, let's refresh this. Let's say I'll say, can you give me Okay. So now just a second.
That's
Okay. So it opens the browser itself, right? It opens Google. It's enters that keyword SUNY Oswego lead form. It gets this web page. Now it thinks, okay, where should I click next? Because its main target is to get the leave form, right? So now it clicked on leave request form. And now, yeah, that's where we have leave request form. And over here, and once it does its thing, it says successfully found the SUNY Oswego leave request form link, and we can click on the link and do whatever we want. I mean, fill the form if we want. I mean, this is just the base scenario that we are showing you, but this is the agentic framework, and there's a lot more possibilities rather than just navigating to the form.
And while we were testing this, we also had different other scenarios. So we also were able to register for courses, look for courses, make an entire course plan for your upcoming semester. So what happens is when you integrate this system with SUNY Oswego system, every single person's profile will be integrated with SOIA, and SOIA will know each of your information. Like for an example, if I have, like Shusanket is in junior?
Rising senior.
Rising senior. So if he's in his, so if he wants to plan for this next semester, so the SOI will know what are the courses what are the courses Shusanket have already taken and what he can take, and we'll also ask Shusanket like whether are you okay with taking this. So it will give you an entire plan, and it can do like a course registration and everything. And also by having side by side, you can have an entire browser here, and you can ask whatever you want to do, it will do it. And in future, we'll also planning to do a fully automated task agents. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Oops.
Can I just say one thing before you answer the question? That is that you two are working under digital services, Rick Buck,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, I know your student and the projects that you're working on really are part of the digital services team. And working with Rick and what he's trying to do with the website and all these other areas. So, yeah, I'll let the others.
I have many questions. So I'm gonna start with you. I have a couple of questions for you. So how much is the cost of doing each query? Is it like 1 cent, 2 cent? Do you know how?
To answer.
Yeah. So since we have integrated agentic AI framework and we are using OpenAI API key, so we are using the GPT-4o model, and I think it's $0.15 or something like that per 1 million token. We have not calculated how like the total cost, but we can estimate from there.
It's a good idea. So we were thinking of getting ChatGPT premium account for all our students.
So I'll just say that they are working on not a premium account, but you're working on ChatGPT team license that Rick manages for.
So I have a suggestion, because if we wanted to get like that account for all our students, that would be $8,025 a month. That's a lot. But if we can make the same interface for students, so we can make an account for our students. Each of them can ask 100 questions a month.
Yeah.
And then they will have access to agentic AI, all the state-of-the-art systems that come with ChatGPT. And that would cost 100 per, let's say 1 cent, right? $1 a month per student. And that would be a great way for us to make it accessible to all our students without having to pay all that, $25 payments, $1 per student. That would be very manageable for us.
Yeah, when we discussed about this earlier, so even we thought the same, because every student will have this. Right now, we're having $30 for printing machines and stuff like that. So we can give them certain credits to use it. And also that will be more accountable. I mean, students will use it carefully because of the credits itself. So yeah, we planned it, but again, it's up to Rick and Sean.
So I have a couple of other questions. So is it difficult to make it? This is text-based.
Yeah.
Can you make it? OpenAI can use voice as well. I
Yes.
think through OpenAI, you can enable that as well.
Yes.
How, so is it way more costly if you want to implement voice assistant, so a student doesn't have to type something, they are on the go? What is the menu for Cooper today, right?
You want to answer on that?
Yeah, so right now I'm not able to recall the API cost for voice assistant model, but I think the better the model, they're more costlier. For example, they recently released GPT-4o3. I'm not sure if we have API access to that or not, but that would be more costlier than GPT-4o. So I guess model also plays a major role on how expensive that process would be. But I guess even if we stick with voice assistant and just choose 4o model, it shouldn't be that expensive.
And also choosing the model, you don't need a very advanced model for this, because anyway, we don't want students to write a paper with ChatGPT. So you don't need an advanced. So you need a base model to answer your questions to get the retrieval, like information retrieval possible. That's it. So it should be one.
Okay, thank you.
So is this a project that is temporarily under your control? You said, Rick is in charge, but is it something that
So I'd
we are
say,
looking to use in the coming years? So it's the start of that?
yeah, so I'll just say that Rick's working, Rick and Ram and Aid are working really with HR, right? So you've developed this model, thanks. Yeah. So HR is actually testing the models. So they've developed, and just as you see, like you can choose the HR questions. So HR is looking at it and they type in questions and try to utilize it themselves to see if they can find if it's working, if there's hallucinations. So they have to have work done, to really go and refine the models. And certainly we're looking at next to do something with CTS to go and look at the help desk and help people to go and to really browse our knowledge base and find answers more easily than they do now. So I think we would start here at this rate and then look at how it can go and build out from there.
Okay, I think this is fantastic what you're doing, I was just hoping this will stay.
Yeah, because
Not getting
you
put
can.
into it.
Thank you. You can see the full potential of this, the framework, only if you can integrate a lot more departments' data knowledge base. So just we had only, we were like able to test only one knowledge base, I mean, two, but technically with other departments, it's like HR department. So even for the HR department knowledge base, we were able to access only the knowledge base that are in the website. So if you get more information, more internal knowledge base information, that will be more efficient.
I'll also say one of the items is the data on the website, because there's lots of bad data.
Yeah.
I would say old, outdated data on the website. And it's kind of timely because the team is redoing the HR website right now. So they'll be able to go in and clean up the data on it at the same time and use it to help so that really the data is accurate. But it brings out the point where we need to go. And as you see the answers you get, it's not always hallucination that is really the wrong answer. It's that the data is bad out there on the website and it's old and outdated. And you can't link to it and people find a hard time, but Google would go and find it if you didn't have it. So the data, the clarity of the data is really an important aspect and something we need to take more attention to.
Yeah, speaking of the data and hallucination, I would like to share a story, experience. So we were testing this model with Ramin, Provost, Assistant Provost. So we were testing and we were having a different, testing with different queries. But what happened was, even we thought the answers were really accurate, but the ChatGPT, the custom GPTs. But there was a specific question that that only Ramin knows the answer. Ramin knows. He was asking that to the ChatGPT. What ChatGPT said that was, there was no specific information in the website. So it was actually giving a response that is it looks like it is really accurate, but it took information somewhere from Stanford or Harvard or somewhere like that. But SOIA, it gave an accurate result because we had that knowledge in our in our data sets. So that's where I think ChatGPT is great. We are not competing with ChatGPT, but we should have an extra layer for ourselves so that we will have a hold with our data set. Yeah. And then
I saw with your previous page, you had like what appeared to be 4 prompts on the page. Were those like the most recent prompts, the most ones that you've been using the most? What decides what?
so that one's so we are kind of giving users how to prompt, and we are kind of giving users like we so these are the prompts that the first thing is we are just influencing users. That's a dark UX. We are influencing users. And second thing is we are giving users a kind of an ease of access. Okay, this one like the follow-up prompts maybe. So initially when users lands to the page, there will be some users might not know what to do, how to ask. So these prompts will be a starting prompt, starting place for them. And then the second thing is according to the actions will actually improve those prompts. And like for an example, if someone is asking about the diners, the other suggested prompts will be regarding the diners, the follow-up questions, something like that. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to cut off the interesting exchange, but we're out of time. So thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't hear you.
No.
No, they're down.
That's.